My name is Becky Doherty. I'm with the League of Women Voters in Stevens Point, and I'd like to welcome you to our program this evening. The goal of the League of Women Voters is to empower citizens to shape better communities worldwide. Your attendance here shows your interest in your community, and we thank you for coming. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization that encourages the informed and active participation of citizens in government, works to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and influences public policy through education and advocacy. Membership in the League is open to any U.S. citizen, male or female, over 18 years of age. And one membership includes membership in your local league, your state league, as well as our national league. So if you would like some information about league membership, please check in over here at the table. We have information about websites and other membership information for you. Today we are hosting two candidate forums. We are beginning with the candidates who are running for the Stevens Point Area Public School District School Board. And at 7 o'clock we will break and set up for the second forum, which will be candidates running for the position of Portage County Judge. The League is not hosting a forum for City Council or County Board candidates. All candidates received written questions from the League, which have been submitted to the Stevens Point Journal and the Portage County Gazette for publication, and this candidate information is also available on our League website. This evening's program is being videotaped for broadcast over community television channels 95 and 984. The times that they will be shown are Friday, March 30th at 8:30 p.m., Saturday, March 31st at 2:30 and 9 p.m., and Monday, April 2nd at 8 a.m. The spring election is Tuesday, April 3rd. Now, I expect that many of you are aware that there are new voting regulations that were passed into law in 2011. This law made changes impacting voter registration, residency, and voting requirements on Election Day, including a requirement for all voters to have an appropriate voter ID. The voter ID law is being challenged in the courts, and there is currently an injunction blocking the implementation of the voter ID requirement. So on April 3rd, showing a voter ID is not required for voting. Still in effect are some of the other changes. So as you watch for, the election day approaches, if you hear of other things and you're confused about the voting law, you're not alone, but please check with your municipal clerk, maybe going to your municipality's website to get the most current information. Now I would like to introduce Ed Miller. He will be the moderator for this evening's program. Mr. Miller is a professor of political science at the University of Wisconsin in Stevens Point and a political science analyst for the Wall Street Journal. He teaches and writes in areas of state and urban politics, health policy, education policy, and legislative process. He is the co-founder and co-director of the Center for the Small City. And we are very happy that he is here with us to moderate both of our forums this evening, starting now with the candidates for Stevens Point Public School Board. At the end of this particular section, we encourage you to stay and visit further with the candidates outside in the hallway so we can set up for the second forum. So, Mr. Miller.
Thank you. Thank you. If the voter ID had stayed in place, I was going to try my high school ID and see if they identify me. The Stevens Point Area School District includes 14 schools. School board members are paid $3,780 per year. The school board is composed of 9 members that serve 3-year terms. The members, I should mention, are elected at large. Everybody votes on all the school board members. I was involved in that change several years ago. The school board is composed of these 9 members of the 3-year terms, and for the April 3rd election, there are 6 candidates running for 3 open seats. So there's 3 open seats this time, and the next election there'll be 3 open seats as well. Voters can therefore vote for 3 candidates, or up to 3 candidates for the school board. The candidates, there are 4 candidates here. There are 6 candidates. One is on her way, and one will not be here tonight. The candidates, although I have them here in alphabetical order, but I'll give them in the order they selected randomly, the order that they're sitting in. And so I'm not totally confused. I will use the order that they're sitting here. The first, to my left, and I got the left right. No, that's the right. That's the left. Is Wade Mahan. He's in the first seat. You want to say just a little about yourself first?
Sure. Wade Mahan.
Yeah, Mahan.
Yeah, and I work at the university. I teach in the English department. I've been here for about 12 years. And my wife and I have 3 girls who are all going to Jefferson School, and I can see one of their teachers right now. And so it's we really appreciate the district, and we're glad to be here. And that's enough of it.
Okay, you just do your Angel Falcon?
Faxon.
Faxon.
Yep.
They never asked me to read them for graduation. Nobody would ever graduate. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Angel Faxon. I have 8 children in the district. They are in 3 of the different school levels, so Spash, Ben Franklin, and McDill. I am a special ed educational assistant, but substitute, so I work in a lot of the schools, probably about half. My husband Rich and I have been here for about 10 years.
And to the left of her is Jeff Zelmer.
John.
Oh, John Zelmer.
Thank you for coming out this evening on such a beautiful night to be with us. I came to Stevens Point in 1981. Oh, hi Renee, come on over. I came to Stevens Point in 1981 from Winneconne, where I was a school psychologist, and I worked in the Stevens Point Public Schools for 28 years, the last 18 as an elementary principal at Kennedy Elementary, Jefferson Elementary, and Bannock. I have to mention my wife because I always forget Kelly and I get scolded. I'm married to Kelly, my wife, and our we have 3 Welsh Springer Spaniels that live with us. I guess just very connected part of this community for the 28 years I've been here, and it's a pleasure to be with you tonight. Thank
And
you.
to the left of John is Jeff. Jeff Presley.
I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for putting this on. It's always a great pleasure to come to them every year. My name is Jeff Presley. I live in Stevens Point. I have a total of 4 children. 3 of them are in the district, 3 boys. The youngest is an 8-month-old daughter. She was our last hope, and it came through. That was good. I've been in this community for over 8 years. I am a senior claims adjuster at Century Insurance. I handle transportation claims, essentially 18-wheeler accidents. I think that's about it. Just a short introduction.
And to the left is Renee Shively.
Yes, hi, I'm Renee Shively, and I have lived in this community for going on 23 years. I'm married, and my husband Jim works for NewPage, and we have 2 children that have gone through the Stevens Point public school system. Our son Sam is a sophomore, and our daughter Lauren is a senior. I have graduated from college with an education degree in special ed and elementary ed. I taught for a couple of years, and after that I couldn't find a teaching job in the community I wanted to live in and entered business, and I've worked in the field of human resources. I worked for Marshall Clinic as their Director of Employee Relations, and since leaving there I have done some independent consulting in the area. I'm happy to be here, and I want to thank the League for hosting this forum.
Right, and the one candidate who couldn't be here tonight is Linda Lewis. For each of the candidates, starting here, why don't you give about a minute and a half statement about why you're running and opening statement.
Okay.
And there will be lights, so you can tell.
Okay, right there. Okay, why I'm running, I'm interested in giving back to the community some of the things that I've been given, and I want to offer the voters a choice. I think one of the things that we've been talking about over the last couple of weeks, one of the terms that has come up is the idea of stability, and stability can be a good thing, but also I think maybe even more important than that is competition. That's why we have elections. That's why we have this election. That's why I'm here. I want to compete for your votes and offer my experience, my perspective, which I think is relevant to the things that we're doing here. And I think I can bring a fresh perspective to the board and the kinds of problems that we're dealing with. And I understand a lot of what is going on in education. As an educator, I can identify with the teachers and their concerns. But I also identify with the community as a community member and understand the limitations that we have to work with. So I think I can bring a fresh perspective to the board.
Okay. Angel?
I'm someone who kind of always toyed with running for school board. I assumed at some point I would do it, but I kind of assumed I'd do it when more of my children were out of the house. But being in the schools, I've kind of watched everything come down with Act 10, and it's got me concerned. People are frustrated, and they're hurting, and they're not feeling heard. So I thought now would be a good time. This is a board that's going to make a lot of lasting decisions, and I thought it was kind of a critical time to step in. Other than that, I actually am capable of seeing more than one side of an issue. I referee my children all the time. So it's something I feel like I can listen and hear and learn. I feel like I have an open mind. I'm not going into this with decisions made. I'd like to hear what people have to say and make an intelligent decision based on the information given to me.
John Soma?
Thank you. I've been an advocate for children and public education my whole adult life. I grew up in a blue-collar working family and was the kid that washed dishes in 4th and 5th and 6th grade so that he could have free hot lunch. But a lot of us grew up in those kinds of homes. And thanks to public education, I was able to go to college and get my master's and serve children in communities for my entire life. And I look around the room and see faces that I've been on committees with and initiatives with. And this is an opportunity for me to continue on with that legacy. I left Bannock as an early retiree. At the time, my mom had died in a household accident, and my father had Alzheimer's, so I wanted to spend the last few years with my father, who was living at the Toma Veterans Home. And with his passing, it's been an opportunity. My wife says, you need to do something. And those of you that have ever worked with me know that I need to do something. So now was an opportunity, and the school board was something I always thought would be a chance for me to continue to give back to the community and continue the legacy that I want to pay back. So I'm running for the board.
Okay, before we continue, let me just announce that if you have a question from the audience, please write it down, and one of the ushers will pick it up. Okay. Sure, they have cards.
I thought it was a civic obligation to run for the school board. It's important to me, having 4 children, that they learn by example. It's easy to sit on your couch and complain about things. So it takes a little more of a parent to get off the couch and actually do something about it. I'm going to say that every time. And it is a great privilege to have served on the board for 3 years. I'd like another 3 years, because I think I can do a pretty good job. It sets an example not only for my children, but also the community I live, work, and play in. It's important that I give back to this community as much as I take, and give back probably twice as much as I take. The other reason why I ran for the board, and this is a hard decision, is the conflict of interest has grown in membership on this board. Potential members of this board have some serious conflicts of interest. The other is the stacking of this board by special interest groups for their own device. Those 2 issues are important, and I hope that the League of Women Voters addresses those issues tonight and clears the air as to how that can seriously affect the direction of the district. That's one of the other reasons why I ran, is that it's important that my children receive a quality education without the influence of special interest.
Well, thank you, Jeff. Renee Scheibel?
Thank you. I'm running for a 3rd term. I've served on the board for the last 6 years, and it's been a real honor to serve this community on the Stevens Point Board of Education. And the last 2 years, I've been fortunate enough to serve as president of the school board, which has been a real honor. I believe that strong schools are really vital to a growing community, and I believe the business as well as the community people that live here want strong schools. Keeps our housing values good, and it also provides workers for our businesses. And I think it's something that's important to all of us. One of the other things, since I really am passionate about public education, as I've studied and I've looked at things, the research shows that high-performing school districts have something in common, and that is that they have stability in the leadership and the superintendency as well as on the board. So I would really like to continue my service on the board for this next term. And also one of the biggest things that I really like to do is I'm really a strong advocate for the children. I believe that every child can learn and that every child has the right to a free public education. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we will go to the questions, and we will rotate the questions. So we will start here, and then the next question will go in. We have, the league has come up with 2 questions that we'll start with, and then we will go to audience questions as you give your cards to the individuals who will then give them to me, and I will read the questions. The first question is, what is the most important, what are the 3 top priorities for policy changes or challenges in the district? 3 top priorities for either changes or simply challenges that the district is now facing. Wait.
Top 3 priorities, I think one of those at the top has to be healthy communication within the district between all parties involved, whether that's community, administrator, faculty, teachers, parents. I think communication is the solution to a lot of things. If anyone has ever been married, I think you probably understand the importance of communication. I'm still learning that. But I think we need to continue to make progress in communication, making sure that everyone in the district understands what we're doing, why we're doing it, and that we have communication going both ways. That it's not just the board communicating to the public, but the public communicating to the board, the teachers communicating to the board, and letting us know what their needs are and what the solutions are that they see can be made. I think we also need, number 2, consistent track record of fiscal responsibility so that we can someday ask the community to help us out with the referendum if that becomes necessary. And then 3, I think, since the yellow light is on, we need some kind of sustainable plan for compensation for our employees. I think we're moving that direction, but I think we need to do a better job of finding something that's sustainable and that will give our employees a sense of ownership in the district.
My number 1 is the people. I think that I'd love to see this district be one where everyone, the employees, the students, the parents, feel heard, feel respected, feel like they have an equal investment. That would include people who don't have children, who are just taxpayers and are investing in their public schools. That's why they're public schools. Everyone should have a voice in what's going on. Obviously, ultimately, someone has to make a decision. I think that's good, but it should be made with the most information possible. My number 2, we sound like a little echoey, sorry Wade, is fiscal responsibility. Obviously, we're dealing with a whole lot of cuts and changes right now, and where to prioritize that money is a huge question and a huge issue, and not everybody's going to agree. But I think we need to look around, walk through the schools, see what's happening, who needs what, and just start assessing the needs and looking at what people need, listening to people, finding out what's going on. And my number 3 is I think that we need a clear view of new technology that's coming and is available. I think that we need to be accountable for the resources we have right now. By that I mean the one-on-one computers from Century, which is a fantastic thing, but sometimes I feel like my children are not grateful for what they have, and that frustrates me. I think that we need to get the suggestions that were made in the facilities study implemented.
John Zellman.
I'm going to start with curriculum instruction, which of course is policy. That's our product. That's what we deliver to students every day, and that's to me, the heart of the school district, along with human resources, because of the people who deliver those. The world is changing so quickly. Angel mentioned technology. With the economy of the internet and how kids are so smooth and good with handhelds, we're really going to have to keep on top of technology, I agree. We're going away now from information gatekeepers, and what I mean by that is we used to just deliver information, content to kids, but now our kids today are going to have to be real consumers of information because it changes so quickly, it gets outdated so quickly. So teaching kids how to learn, how to be socially and culturally competent, how to work in a group, how to be prepared for business. So learning how to learn is going to be crucial, and schools are going to change so rapidly. So curriculum instruction, I would also echo the facilities study. We've been talking about this for as long as I've been in the district. How are we going to realign? Are we going to do the 6, 7s and 8, 9s? How are we going to do it? And we have a wonderful new facility study out, and this is an opportunity finally to put that to rest. And then I would say change itself, managing change, especially Act 10. We don't know how that's going to wash out around the state yet, but we're right in the middle of it. And part of that is going to be to recruit and retain the best teachers because they're what counts the most.
Thank you. Jeff Presley?
Well, what's interesting is what everybody has talked about is actually what the district goals are. You can go on the website and see there are a variety of things under that goal. That would be my first goal, is following what the district goals are, because it was a comprehensive plan for the district to follow. And without a plan, a well-laid plan, you're not going to get to the end. The second thing that I would look at is definitely a collaboration between the partners here in Stevens Point. We are in a great situation. We have the university, we have Midstate. Midstate's coming downtown, right behind us, actually. It's time to look at those partnerships even more with the school district and build more inroads into our programs. Why does a kid have to graduate from high school and then go on to college? Why can't they go to college at the same time that they're in high school? While we do have some of those programs right now, AP, youth options, we can look at expanding those programs. And the reason why? There's a finite number of dollars. It doesn't matter how loud we yell at Madison, it seems like they're not going to give us more dollars. We need to make those dollars go further. The third one is development of the handbook, communications. That's going to be key because we need to take care of our staff. We need to work with them, create a good working environment. Unfortunately, with Act 10, we're on new territory. We're on new grounds that everybody needs to walk together and get along towards the end. The end goal is to educate our children, give them the best quality education.
Thank you, Jeff. Renee Scheiber?
Thank you. Our schools are really the communities. They're community schools, and I believe that the financial stability is something that we really need to focus on. I think we've done a nice job in the last 2 years of giving some stability to our schools in terms of looking at things realistically from a financial standpoint. And then the next thing would be, which kind of aligns with that, are the goals that were developed. They're board, superintendent, and district goals. And the board is in the process of working with the superintendent and the community to get those implemented. They're in 3 areas. They're in student achievement, there are human resource goals, as well as finance goals. There are activities that are going on right now in all 3 of those areas. The facilities studies was one of them that was under the finance. Under human resources, we're working on the employee handbook. And in student achievement, we are now starting, they had a meeting last week and they'll have another meeting this week regarding the K through 12. Well, it's actually the graduation requirements, but it will affect the K through 12. And we have community members as well as staff, business leaders, all participating in that objective in those meetings. And it's really exciting, and we did that with the facilities study, and we had an awful lot of great input. So the other thing is keeping the communication open and making sure that all the stakeholders have access to the board and to making sure our schools deliver what our mission is.
Okay, thank you. The second question, both the state and the federal government have been concerned about accountability, both of students and of staff. Accountability under the No Child Left Behind Act, as most of you know, has relied primarily, or exclusively actually, on testing. We have now moved away from testing, including the new state plan. What variables would you look at to assess the accountability of students and teaching? Tests can be one of them, but what else? Angel?
I think we need to ask the teachers. We need to ask the people that are in there with the classrooms with them every day. I haven't been in a classroom yet where pretty much teachers know exactly who needs help in what area, what they need extra help in, what they're really good in. I mean, when I walk into substitute, the teacher will point to the kids and say, he needs help with this, he needs help with that. They're very sharp people, and they know their students. Even when the classrooms are really full, it's amazing how well they know. Obviously, we can't go around and ask every single teacher, so I guess we'd have to set up some sort of system where the teachers are communicating with the administrators or the leaders of their pod or their group. We need to give them the time to do that, to meet as, the third grade team, the fourth grade team, that sort of thing, so they can start figuring it out. And I think we'll start seeing a lot of results. The administrators can report it to the board, and the board can do what they need to do, but I think we definitely need to hear it straight from the teachers and, to some degree, the parents. I mean, I feel like there are times where I know what's going on with my kids a little bit more even than the teachers do in terms of their education. I hope I know more in terms of their lives. So parents, teachers, that's my thought.
Thank you. John?
One thing I'd like to see the federal government do is move to what's called a growth model. No Child Left Behind was basically standardized tests, and they're so dependent upon what day it is, and reduce all of human behavior. As a psychologist, nothing so annoys me than reducing all of human behavior to a cut score. I mean, if you look around the room, what number would you like to be today, and have yourself defined for the year based on that number? I'd like to see a growth model. What I mean by that is looking where children start and how far they come. Not all children have the same level of ability. Not all children come from the same background. Some don't speak English. Economic disadvantage is probably the best proven obstacle for a lot of kids to overcome. So there's ways to do that on your assessment and evaluations, is looking how much growth the kids make, and judge a school based on how well kids are moving across. And then outcomes based on your curriculum. I mean, curriculum, again, is very important in having what we call scope and sequence. What is it you're going to teach? When are you going to teach it? And what are the skills involved? What your kids know? You can evaluate that through rubrics, through authentic kinds of assessment products. There's a lot of ways, to look at how kids are learning. And finally, the teacher comes into accountability, I think, based on an instructional model and supervision. And school districts need to evaluate and supervise their teachers. That's a principal's role, and judge those teachers according to standards that are set forth by the school district.
Okay. Well, the first thing is definitely is the tracking issue. I know the district has already looked at that, has done some test pilot programs in tracking each individual child. Think about if you had a system that from K through 12, that teacher would input everything about that child, and that child builds a portfolio about themselves from K to 12. It would make it a lot easier to reference for any individual teacher to look at, to see, as Mr. Zomer has said, the individual growth pattern of that child. Every child develops at a different rate. Having instant access to that information, I think, is critical for any teacher to address those kinds of issues. The second thing is you're always going to need testing, some sort of testing. You're going to have to look at that as a board member, as administration, to see what fits our students and what fits their profile to best assess their needs. The third thing, and I would agree, teachers need input in that. Developing a system that allows them to input, but also having that interaction with the parents and giving feedback so that they can carry with that child, again, from K through 12. The last thing is an individualized plan for the children. Each child develops differently. Each child needs a different plan. One child may be well advanced over another child, or just the opposite. Every teacher needs to know that information.
Thank you. Renee, Jack?
Certainly. I do think that it is important for our schools to be accountable as well as to share the results. And oftentimes I think that it has only been testing, or that's what people have looked at, are just the test results. And I think that what the state, I know in the state of Wisconsin, Tony Evers has looked at doing multiple indicators. And when they are looking at those, there are many things that they're looking at. They're looking at the growth of each child. for that particular year. They're looking any kind of gaps in achievement. And then also I think it's really important to look at the severity or the issues that that child brings to school in terms of where they start and then where they end. We want to make sure that they're progressing and that they're learning. I think the district, I know, is working on what we call a dashboard, and we're looking at it from a human resource standpoint as well as a financial one, and also as well as a student achievement. Because we want to make sure our public knows just how good our schools are and how well we're performing. For instance, our graduation rate is right around 95 to 96%. We'd like it to be 100, but it's 95 to 96% of our students graduate. We'd also like to be able to share information regarding the finances, how kids are learning, and the staff satisfaction. And we really need to have all of the voices coming together to make sure that we know just exactly how successful we're doing in our school system.
Thank you. Okay.
Thanks, Jessica. Accountability is a big question, a big issue. I agree with a lot of what people have said here. We need to look at the individual needs of students, individual needs of different groups of teachers. And I think we need multiple measures of performance in the classroom and within the district. Part of that can be testing, but that can't be the whole thing. And I think we need to have supervisors using their judgment to identify who the best people are and identify where needs are, because teachers are doing the same things in the classroom, identifying where the needs are with the students. And I think one thing maybe we can look at too is how can we involve employees, especially teachers, in setting goals, setting achievement goals for themselves in the classroom, working with their supervisors, their principals, for goals that they can set for themselves, that they can be held accountable to, that they want to hold themselves accountable to, and working with their students in the same way to help students set achievable goals and be able to hold them accountable as well.
Thank you. John, you get the first question from the audience.
Okay.
And I've got some of the questions here. I'll summarize the question. The first question deals with privatization. And it talks about your support or opposition to privatization of non-instructional services such as custodial and food services, as well as instructional services such as the recently passed bill dealing with special needs children going to private institutions that was passed this week.
Okay, part one first. I'm sorry, did I wait for the question?
Yeah, no, it deals with both of those.
Pardon me?
It's a minute and a half.
Yeah, a minute and a half.
Minute and a half.
Yeah, same thing.
Privatization of services. I truly believe that when you have your own place, they're more vested in your school and they have ownership. We have custodians, for example, that read the kids on their breaks, and still on a tight budget. My priority is the is the core academic program, and if it comes down to having to pick and choose, the farther you're away from where teachers and kids are together, the more vulnerable you become for potential cuts. So unfortunately, privatization of those kinds of services may be in the future for most of the schools, whether you like it or not, but I'm hoping there's a way to keep some of your own people and meld those with private folks. As far as privatization of education, a complex issue. What happened with special ed, I think, is tragic. I don't know if it passed. I know Renee will know. But that was an example. I don't have a problem with charter schools as long as the playing field is level. That means you follow the same rules, you have the same assessment, you take all kids, not just the ones you want, you are accountable by the same standards. If you level the playing fields where you follow the same rules, you accept all the same kids, I know in Stevens Point I'll compete with anybody because our schools were very capable of doing that. But when schools are allowed to take who they want and not have to follow the same curriculum, not have to comply with ADA and put in elevators and spend money on drinking fountains that are handicapped accessible, which is we should do, then it's not a fair comparison.
Jeff?
To the first issue of privatizing the services in the school district, I know that the custodial services has started to do that. That is one option that the board has looked at for cost savings. I think it needs to strike a balance between the two. You still need to maintain a core group of key stakeholders Having people through a private service, you don't always get that continuity in the service that we're required to have as a district. It's important that we maintain fiscal responsibility, though. At the end of the day, it is about the children, and we will have to make some tough decisions maybe down the road. But at this point in time, it needs to be a balancing act. The second issue, as far as the special needs, I'd like to thank Ms. Shively for actually going down to Madison and speaking on that issue. It's important to this district. The amount of money that this bill would essentially cost the district, totally unreasonable. This is public education. There's a reason why we have public education. It doesn't matter, and as Mr. Zelmer would say, the parents send their best kids that they have to us. Great statement, because that's what we have to work with. And we can't pick and choose like a private entity can. I will never support anything that would take away public education. It takes those dollars away from this district and providing an education to all children in this district.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Renee, Shad?
Thank you. I would agree with the speakers that have spoken already regarding some of the different services that we offer for the custodial or the food services. I do think it's important to note that on Monday night at our board meeting, our superintendent did indicate that while we have contracted some of the custodial services, it's really important that we don't contract them all. We need to have our own employees working in our schools during the day, interacting with our students, and so I just don't think it's wise to have all of your custodial services contracted. The same with the food services. We have a great relationship with a large vendor, and we're doing some doing a new partnership with them, and we're bringing in some new food services into our high school with salad bars and things like that, and that's working out well. That's a nice thing that we're offering. When it gets to privatizing public education and the voucher system, I know that was introduced, I think, originally because the Milwaukee public school system is failing. And I think that's been kind of the Band-Aid to try to get the vouchers, get things more competitive, but it is not the right thing to do. They're taking the money that is available for public education and they're taking it away from public education, sending it to voucher schools, and there's no accountability. The tests that we apply to the public schools are not being applied to the private schools. And I just do not think that's the way the public dollars should be spent. And I feel very strongly about that.
Okay. Wait.
Yes, as far as the non-instructional staff and privatization, I think that's something you have to look at in terms of long-term costs and benefits. Like we've been saying, I think it's probably best to keep our employees employed by the district. I think there are a lot of advantages to that. We have to look at the long-term costs and benefits as they come along. And as far as the instructional one, I think that's where I agree with a lot of what's been said here. I don't think we need to take money away from public education. I think the voucher system that exists in Milwaukee is a kind of a nuclear option. It's something that is in place because of severe failure of the school district. And we're not a failed school district. We have strong schools. We don't need a nuclear option dropped on us that will damage what we're able to do. So I don't think that the proposal being put out by the legislature is a good idea. I think we have good private schools, good home schools. They do the work that they need to do, but we shouldn't have to fund what they do because we need to keep our public education system strong.
Okay, thank you. Angel?
Privatization, not a fan. I live in this community because I like it, and I like the people that are in it, and I'd like to give them jobs before I give them to somebody else. And I know a lot of people that'd be willing to try to work with a system and make something work before they would lose their job over it. And I think we should listen. I think we should see what they can come up with to make it work financially. What can they do? I do get it that it may have to happen. I'm willing to look at it, but initially, no, not a fan. Special ed, there really aren't any special ed committees in this town that I haven't been on at one point or another. We have a son in special ed. This bill that was trying to be passed is a terrible idea. Most of the parents I know, and I'm truly speaking about this only as a parent, send their kids to public schools because of the quality of the education their specialized kid can get. They pull, even if every one of their kids is going through private schools, they'll pull that one out because of what they can get through the public school system. They have teachers that are specialized, they have specialists that come in, and I mean, public schools do an amazing job with the special ed kids, and I don't think that should be messed with.
Thank you.
I started.
Oh, you start?
Well, I
Do you
get
want to go
started.
again?
I'll let you go again.
That's right, you go again.
Where did Jeff go? No, I'm gonna pass
keeping my mouth
I'm
shut.
gonna pass the
You're not-
starting right on to you, young
Well, the
man.
next question that came up just in the order here is surprising. One candidate, which is you, Jeff, mentioned special interest. Would each candidate address what special interest they may be aware of or concerned about? What are the conflicts of interest? And since you mentioned it, you can, I mean, I know you wouldn't normally start, but this was the order.
Well, I don't have any conflicts of interest. I've never worked for the school district. My wife has never worked for the school district. None of my family has ever worked for the school district. I've never belonged to a union. Nobody in my family belongs to a union. It's very clear that you need to maintain a degree of separation when you're on a board of education. Special interest cannot play a role in that. In the last 3 years, I've seen special interest starting to take over the board. It's important that you have individuals, I can think of 3 of us, that would be Renee Shively, Linda Lewis, and myself, that have shown with our service on the board that, first of all, that we have no conflicts of interest, but secondly, the stability within the district that is needed to move us forward. So every voter needs to go out there and look, see where the signs are, see how many times it's been painted over. Look at what statements have been said about individuals. Make an educated choice.
Renee?
Thank you. I don't have any special interests related to my service on the board other than my passion for public education and the importance that I feel public education has in our community, and particularly with our students and our families in this community. I do think with board service, it's really important that board members understand what their role is. And really the role of a board member is to really develop policy, to set the strategic direction of the board, do the planning, setting the budget, monitoring the operations, having communications with all of the stakeholders that are open and listening to them and advocating for the children of this district. I think if the board members can focus on that, that keeps them away from getting into the day-to-day details, which board members really should not be enmeshed in. The Board of Education hires the superintendent, and that relationship between the superintendent and the Board of Education is kind of sacred. Because you really need to have a well-functioning relationship there. And then the Board of Education, when they vote on things, it is the majority rule. So if you're in the minority, you need to support the majority decision going forward for the benefit of everyone involved, particularly our students.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, as far as special interests go, I guess my only special interests are my 3 children who are in the district. And you know, I do want to do what I can for their benefit, but I also see that I need to look beyond just what's good for them and their school and their situation. So I will not let that become a hindrance in what I do. I've never been employed by the school district. My family, no one in my family has. And I've never been a member of a union, and no one in my family has either. So like Jeff, we kind of come from the same background in that area. So I feel like I'm an independent candidate. I have the same kind of special interests that any parent, any community member has in the district. And I like to look at the big picture and look at the needs and interests from all sides. I think all people involved, whether they're in the schools, whether they're in the community, have legitimate interests and legitimate concerns that we all need to listen to and take very seriously.
Well, I can only assume this all is about me.
No, it's not.
I do work in the schools. I'm very proud of that. It doesn't bother me at all. As a matter of fact, I think it gives me a very unique perspective on what's going on in our district. If I am elected, I would stop working for the schools. It would be a requirement. So I wouldn't be in the schools anymore as a special ed aide who's getting paid. I will, however, still be in the schools all the time. I love seeing what's going on in there. I'll volunteer my time. I mean, this is amazing stuff that's going on in there, and yeah, I'll still be in there. My special interest in this, honestly, like Wade, it's my kids. My kids are going to go through this education system that in this town, and a lot of the adult they're going to become is because of what they've learned or not learned here, or how they've been handled here. And it's really important to me to know what that's about, including the policies that are in input and how finances are handled. I mentioned before, I truly am capable of looking at more than one side of something. I am.
Yeah.
Hi. I certainly do have a special interest that could be it is a conflict of interest if I were to vote on it. My wife and I have dedicated 59 years of our lives to serving the kids in this district, and we both retired from this district, and as such, we draw benefits from the school district. So anything that would come up in front of the board that would have to do with our retirement benefits, obviously, is already conflict of interest, and I would not be able to discuss or address. I have spoken to legal counsel who tells me, and I'll assume this is correct until otherwise, that I can vote on any other budget issue but those that directly affect my retirement. My special interest has been the kids of this district. I'm fully capable of understanding board roles and policy making versus the side I sat on for so long, which was administering the school district. Anybody that knows, having had a board member in their life micromanage them, would come to the board and appreciate that you don't want to do that to your former colleagues because you've been on that side. There was an attempt early in the fall that the school board, because of its requirements, was fast-tracking through a compensation package that had to do with benefits that affected retirees. And it changed retirees, in fact, our benefits, which are vested. If you look at the law, once you have a retirement, the benefits you went out under are yours. And the proposal that came about was going to significantly change them, in some cases just get rid of them. And I made a comment that I think if you bring this proposal through, you might find yourself in litigation. And fortunately, nobody wants to see that happen. I certainly don't. And I think we're going to get it done, and we'll take care of that issue.
Thank you. Renee Scheibele gets the next question from the audience, and it says, the school board agenda on February 13th regarded a policy to control or limit communications between the board members themselves and the community. What do you feel about this?
I am so glad that somebody asked this question. The February 13th meeting, let me set the record straight. In December, Bob Larson is a board member. He requested something beyond the board, which was board member requests. We have some board members that have made numerous requests, which have taken a lot of administrative time. They're individual board members making these requests. It is not a majority of the board that is requesting this information. Bob Larson asked that be on the December meeting. We talked about it as a board in the full light of everyone. We went around the table, and the consensus was that people wanted the superintendent to look at some policies throughout the state and then to come back to the board with a policy, which he did. That policy was brought forward in February, and that is the infamous 11E policy agenda item. As board president, I reviewed it. There were some questions I had about it. I wasn't a fan of it. I didn't particularly like it, but rather than usurping every other board member's opportunity to look at it, Chris Scott, who's the vice president, also sets the agenda. We allowed that to go forward so the entire board could discuss it, which they did, and the entire board decided 8-0 to do nothing with the policy. There you have it. Thanks for asking.
I didn't ask that. I did ask that.
Thank you.
From the audience, go ahead. Wait.
Well, I remember that meeting as well. I happened to be there, and I remember that after Angel got up and spoke to that issue, there's no way anybody on that board was able to vote for it. And I'd like to think that she had an impact on that, so kudos to her. But I think part of that issue had to do with communication within the board and the nature of the debate within the board and the differences of opinion. I think differences of opinion are very good, and debate is very good, very healthy, but the debate needs to be over important things. And I think referring to some of those issues that were brought up, that have been brought up, I think some of those issues were rather unimportant things that the board has been spending a lot of time dealing with. So but the board needs to be communicating no matter what the issues are, and need to be communicating with the public and with one another. So I'm glad to see it got shot down.
Angel?
As Wade mentioned, I spoke to the item. It was in our packet. We, as prospective board members, get the packet of information that all board members get, just so that we're up on what's going on. And I was shocked and horrified when I read 11E. At best, it was worded very poorly. It was a gag law. I mean, it was don't talk to people, and that was very frustrating to me. Not even just as a potential board member, but as a parent and as a citizen in this community. I would like to talk to people about what's going on. I mean, I don't know who else we're going to figure anything out. So that was my thought on it.
For me, it was just too fast. It showed up on a Friday for a vote on a Monday. Sometimes it's not what you do, it's how you do it that makes all the difference in the world. I would have gone through policy and legislation, built the case for it, and handled it through committee first. At least that was my take on it. But I have to tell, if you read past some of the first paragraphs, I thought there's some good stuff in there, and I think some of that needs to come back, quite frankly. For example, there's a communication protocol in there. Years ago, we tried to create a communication protocol for principals. When do we email? When do I call you? When do we talk to you face-to-face? And it didn't get very far. There's a one-page pamphlet in there on where you can start with any kind of a concern. Where I'm a board member, I'd probably put it in the drawer next to my telephone, because when I tell you that somebody's called me with an issue, it kind of tells you where you can go and help them to get, and that I thought was good stuff. As a principal that used to visit central office an awful lot, I can tell you that we've cut a lot of central office staff, and I have many times gone over and have seen our central office staff there late into the evening working on requests for information that they had to put other very important. I don't want to say open records and information isn't important, but there have been times when there have been so many requests for information, that's all that some of our central office staff has been done. So that's an issue and a concern, and some of that stuff I think should come back and be talked about.
Well, 11E gate, hopefully it's over. We're done with it. I do sit on the Policy and Legislation Committee as a public member. It never came to that committee. There is a process. It should have gone to committee first. They go through first and second reading. I would agree with Mr. Zellmer. There are some things in there that are good. There were some things that weren't so good. And that's the vetting process that you go through as a committee. Overall, the district, the record speaks for themselves. Under Dr. Winiger, you've seen open communication, honest communication, transparency. But also you've seen some frustration on the board. There's some division. Why is there division? Again, back to the question of special interest, ex-employees sitting on the board. Let's think about this. Century Insurance Board of Directors. How many of them do you think do insurance? 0. There's a reason why. They don't have ex-employees on there. They actually do have a Packer player. I don't know, maybe he gives some defensive calls or something. But it's important that that board remain neutral. When you don't have that neutrality and you have individuals that have their own special interests or special agendas, it's disruptive. It is a board of 9 individuals. That is their power. One individual on that board has no power. Only one voice, and that's as 9 individuals. So.
Okay. Thank you. The little hand is on the 7 and the big is on the 12, which means our time is up. Thank you to all the school board members for the time and energy they've invested in running for the school board and for participating in this forum. We hope you can stay and talk to the audience just outside the room so we may reset the room for the judges' discussion. The League would like to thank the Stevens Point Journal and the Portage County Gazette for publishing the candidates' responses to the League's sponsored questions. These questions are also available on the League's website. Special thanks to the League members for their assistance with organizing and hosting the forum. Thank you to Cable Access TV, John Quirk, and Sarah Thoreau, videographer, for this assistance. Thank you to the staff of the library for their assistance in allowing the use of the facility, and thank you to all of you for attendance and attention. Please watch to see when this forum will be broadcast on Cable Access TV, which you mentioned earlier in the before we began. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Again, if your question was not asked, probably due to time constraints and also trying to make a variety of topics, I encourage you to meet with the candidates and ask them your question out here in the hallway. And there is a candidate literature table here too, so if you have information that you want to leave for people to pick up, feel free to do so. And we'll start with the next forum in just a few minutes.
It's 7:50.